What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 23 of Beyond the Finish Line, a trail running podcast that dives deep into the stories that transcend far beyond distance. I'm Joe Hardin. I'm a passionate trail runner myself. Whether you're an athlete, a back of the pack grinder, or somewhere in between, this is your space. Inspired. So lace up, lean in, and go. Hey, I'm really thrilled to bring Christy Dee forward to the podcast. Christy is a runs author, 42 times marathon finisher, 17 ultramarathons, or 7 ultramarathons, sorry, steward of the Indiana Run, an integral component to two amazing local events, one that I love dearly, Prairie on Fire and the Full Mo Marathons, ultramarathons, sorry, and just an overall rad person. Before we bring Christy on, let's get some housekeeping out of the way, everybody. Friends of the pod, your support means the world to me and everyone at the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. So do us a favor. Go to the network wherever you find your podcast content. Like, share, rate, subscribe, review. You can leave a comment now, which is cool on Spotify. If you enjoy our work, if you feel so inclined, on top of that, give us a 5-star review. It helps bump us up in the algorithm. And we can't do this without your support, and it means everything to us to get those reviews. The AAPN has 8 other great shows outside of mine. Something for everybody. We have Melanin MVP. We have Food Fight Friday, where they discuss aid station food. It's really funny. And we have What's in Your Earbuds podcast. Now with me and Lori, we just talk about music, sometimes a little bit of running. Our next theme is soundtrack and movie scores. We are up to 100 song submissions on that playlist now. It's amazing. So we need your support to continue being the leading voice of the everyday athlete. We can't do this without you. So without further ado, I am really stoked to go beyond the finish line with Christy Dee.
Hi, Joe. Can you hear me?
Hi. Hello, Christy. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm really excited to have you on. Sorry we're having some technical difficulties, but like I said in the green room, it's keeping up with tradition for my show to have some kind of technical problems. So we're part of the course now.
Yeah, no worries at all.
So yeah, thanks for coming on. It's really cool. It's been fun getting to know you on Instagram and follow along on your journey. And we've ran a lot of races. We've been in a lot of the same races, never really had a chance to meet. So this is really cool. I met you briefly at Prairie on Fire. TJ introduced me to you, but you were doing like 1,000 things at that time, so I didn't get a chance to speak with you. So this is really cool. So thanks for coming on Beyond the Finish Line. And I kind of like to start my show out like I do every time, every episode, and just ask the big question, and that is, who is Christy Dee?
Oh, that's a big question. That's
Big one,
it
right?
feels a little bit loaded. I am first and foremost a very passionate and dedicated person. No matter what it is, I put myself to something and I'm going to see it through. And I think that goes with all areas of my life. I'm a stepmom of 2 almost grown daughters, a wife to my wonderful husband, Rob, and also a runner, a big time runner. I've been running for over 18 years at this point, and it started out just really kind of surface level. I started in my mid-20s running, and it was basically from peer pressure, like a lot of things that maybe some of us have done in our teens and 20s. Through peer pressure, I had some friends that were going to run the Indianapolis 500 Festival mini marathon. And they were like, you should do it too. And I said, hold on, guys. Like, I tried to have an intervention with them. I'm like, do you understand? Like, it's 13 miles. Like, do you know how far that is? And I didn't want to do it, but they got the best of me because I was like feeling all the FOMO, being left out of like the talk of the training and all the things. And so I was like, okay, fine. I guess you twist my arm. I guess I'll run a half marathon, whatever that means, however long it takes me. I'm going to hate every step. And, so that's basically where my running love and passion started. It got a lot deeper after that, but in a nutshell, a family person, dedicated, motivated, and a runner. I mean, that's who I am.
Nice. So the Indy Mini was your first like
It
official
was,
race?
yes.
That's so cool. Yeah, the Indy Mini was my first half marathon. Isn't that race just like it? I mean, I haven't done like a ton of half marathon distances, but isn't that race just like its own? It's like a whole vibe. I don't know. I can't say enough about how awesome that event is. Like the whole city, like it just seems like the whole city shows up for that thing. So I really love that. My favorite part was like when you cross the bridge right before the finish line. It's just like I would like same thing. I never ran that far. And like me and my wife signed up together. And I was like, that's 13 miles. But and I was just like absolutely struggling before that bridge. And like once I got over that bridge, it's like I just overcame that so fast because the vibe is so cool, that finish line. But that's neat.
Yeah.
18 years you said you've been running?
I think so. I think that's about what it is. I guess, yeah,
Nice.
pretty close to 20 years. Maybe we're going on 19, 20-ish now.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, the mini, to your point, are you running this year?
Well, we were going to sign up and do the race for Ainsley's Angels, and then right before we were getting ready to hit the register button, we found out my daughter has academic decathlon that same day.
Well, that's definitely
so
important.
I don't think we're going to be able to. Yeah, I was like, all right, well, there'll be other races. So I think we're just going to pick something else to run for Ainsley's Angels, because I really, really want to do that. And I've heard numerous people say that's like the best experience that they've ever had.
It really is.
Any event.
This will be my third year pushing for Ainsley's Angels at the mini. So that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, I'm really stoked that like Allie Brettnacher
Yeah.
like kind of broke the ice for me with them. So I'm like really fired up. It's a bummer I can't run the Indy Mini, but I'm looking forward to some other event.
Absolutely.
Really fun. So you've been running for almost 20 years. If you would, maybe tell us a bit about your running journey, like what got you running to begin
Yeah,
with.
so like I said, I mean, to begin with, it was really superficial. It was peer pressure to sign up for something because I didn't want to miss out on what my friends were doing. And, I crossed that finish line for the first time, and I loved the feeling. I loved the vibe. I loved knowing that maybe there was something else in me that could, make me better. I felt like running could make me a better person, just striving for those finish lines. But, like in your 20s, coming out of college, all the things, I also knew I was burning a lot of calories. So I was kind of like, okay, does this mean I can eat more pizza and maybe drink some extra beers? I don't know. So there was like just kind of that surface level. But I didn't realize how deep running could actually go within my entire being, like kind of consume my soul. And that sounds like deep and weird maybe, but shortly after that, a few months later, I lost my college best friend in a drunk driving accident. And so I had already been running, and this was the first experience that I had had where running could actually be therapeutic, and it could actually be something that you do to heal yourself and to get you through hard times. So very quickly did my mindset shift. from like running being like really superficial, like let's burn some calories to eat some extra pizza and do it because everybody else is doing it, to now this is something that I'm doing for myself to heal and to overcome some really hard things. And so I've been able to draw on running over all these years within that, healing space that I know that it brings to me and to a lot of people. That was the first instance that I had where maybe it was like healing and a place to go to get away. But it started to even become more than that. And there's like this little meme that goes around sometimes on Instagram and Facebook. It's like, oh, I thought I'd have a casual relationship with running, but all of a sudden I let it consume my soul. And I relate to that very well. Crossing that first finish line, it was an amazing feeling, like I said, and I did want that feeling again. So I did some more half marathons, and then I'm like, what would it be like to double that distance and actually do a full marathon? And so very quickly, within the first 2 years that I started running, I signed up for my first marathon, the Chicago Marathon, and we didn't have Monumental at the time. I think I ran Chicago a couple times before Monumental was even a thing here. So to me, Chicago Marathon feels like my hometown race because it's so close. We can drive to it. And it was my first full marathon. I've done very well in Chicago over the years, oftentimes running with friends, oftentimes just enjoying it because I just love the vibe. I've run Chicago 13 times now, and I still always want to go back to that. I'm glad that we have our hometown races now, like Indianapolis Monumental and Carmel Marathon and things like that. But you'll never forget the pull of that like first marathon finish line. So that's, kind of how I got into the marathon world. Again, crossing that finish line, I wondered if there was more inside me, something deeper I could dig towards, knowing that running had healed me, had been there for me. I was going to keep, wanting to build that relationship with this sport. And so that was like super important to me. So that's kind of like where it kind of like jumped off and like catapulted for me, was that Chicago Marathon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. You said a lot of things that I really, really align with because, running for me was same thing. It's like, it was purely like out of vanity. I was on a weight loss journey. I lost 110 pounds after I started. Well, it's a sobriety story. It's a running story. It's all these things too. Not to get off in those weeds, but it was very superficial, I guess, at first. And then same thing. As soon as I crossed a few finish lines, it became something way more profound than, just crossing. Like the finish line to me is just like this victory lap. There's like all these cool little pieces, and something that I know you'll probably agree with is it's deeper. It's like community. It's you actually find out you can overcome a lot of adversity through running, and I'm sure you agree with that. But and something I had to say this on Allie's podcast. I haven't ran an official marathon distance yet, so I went half to 50K and obviously I went way overboard with that. But so I'm gonna have to pick a marathon soon. So I don't know which one to do. And you said Chicago, so I was born in Chicago. I think it'd be cool to do Chicago for my first marathon because it's my birthplace. But also, like listening to Allie's podcast and all these all really, really rad Indiana runners, I might have to pick something local. So yeah, it's on my list this year. I'm gonna have to finally check off a marathon distance. But
yeah, well, I know Allie would want you to sign up for Monumental for sure, and you'd have plenty of time to get in road racing shape for that. So maybe that's an option.
Yeah, I've pretty much only been running roads lately because we're getting ready for a few road adventures that I have. Like, we're gonna take on some silly goals here in a few months, but yeah, it's cool. So, you completed Chicago Marathon, but you go from Chicago Marathon to 42 times finishing
Yeah.
marathon. So it's obviously it's like you said, it's way bigger than just crossing a finish line. So what do you think keeps coming? Like, what do you think? You could have just done one and done, right? But you've done 42. What do you think it is?
Yeah.
That just, what draws you back, right? Is it? I know you kind
Um,
of touched on that, but
yeah. The marathon, the marathon is just, sometimes it's even hard to describe in words. So it's a beast, right? And it's going to humble you, but at the same time, lift you up and make you feel just like you can conquer the world. Because every twist or every turn, no matter what course you're on, you're going to have those highs and lows like we do in any race, right? It's not just the marathon, but for me, the marathon, the 26.2 really resonates with me. I think after that first one, like I said, I knew I could better myself. I knew what I was in for. I knew the pain that could come again if I wanted to do it again. And I did. I wanted to keep chasing something bigger and better. And pretty quickly, so I ran Chicago, like, I think the second time I was up there for Chicago, I started learning about the World Marathon Majors. And at the time, there were only 5. So Abbott had just become a sponsor. And so that just started like creating this series of marathons that all the elite runners wanted to do. But at the same time, Abbott and the World Majors were creating this system and this series that would celebrate, I mean, just like you guys, the everyday athlete, the people wanting to go out there and really strive for something that was big. And they would reward them, and they would celebrate just the regular person completing this series. That was like early up 2008 maybe, and I was like, if I have a bucket list of marathons, then that makes sense that I would want to do these world majors. So there were 5 at the time. They added Tokyo as the 6th, I think, in around 2011, 12, 13, something like that. And I was like, okay, well, then there's my 6 marathons that are on my bucket list. In the meantime, I'm going to keep running the 26.2 wherever I can, because I'm super motivated and in love with that distance. You become a different person every time you cross a start line and every time you hit the finish line. You are just not the same person anymore. The journey that brought you to that start line, that is the marathon, right? And then the actual 26.2, that's the celebration of the hard work that you put in. And to hit that finish line, no matter what, you're still figuring out yourself, and you're learning things about yourself between that start line and finish line. And that's just something like self-discovery and learning more every single day. That's just something that I truly love to do, like learning about myself and learning about this industry that we're in, and learning about other runners too. I mean, the community, you already mentioned that. That's been huge for me. Finding people that will support you, and finding people that you can relate to. And when you show up at the start line, you look around, you might not know a single soul, but they've all done exactly what you've done to get there. And the struggles are the same, and everybody had bad runs, and everybody, wondered what was going to happen, if they got injured and all the things. So, just to be amongst like-minded people in a start corral, no matter how big the race is or how small, it's just really heartwarming for me. And it really brings out that, love of the sport when you can just be around people that, put in the same effort that you do day in and day out. So I learned about the world majors and knew that that would be my bucket list. So I went after it. It took me a lot of years because I wanted to strategically place those marathons in a way while I was still growing myself as a runner and getting faster, because I wanted to qualify for Boston and then complete my 6 stars at Boston Marathon. So I was able to do that, and I'm so thankful. There were hiccups in the way over time. I had missed my BQ by as little as 46 seconds. I had missed it by a minute and a half at one point and 2.5 minutes. So there was always this like striving to hit that goal of the BQ. And in the meantime, I was running these other international marathons. COVID threw a huge wrench into the plan. That year, 2020, I was to run Tokyo and London. And 2 weeks before Tokyo Marathon, they canceled it.
Oh,
I had just finished my last 20 miler. We had, booked our travel, all the things. And we didn't even know here at that time, it was really early February, that COVID, what that was, like how big it really was for, the world and all the things. So yeah, COVID threw a huge wrench into those plans, but then everything continued to fall into place. And, gave me a little bit of extra time to get my BQ, which one of our mutual friends, TJ Daly, wrote my training plan for the year that I ran my
nice.
Boston qualifying time. So shout out to him.
Head out to
for helping
TJ, right?
me.
Yeah.
So
I could imagine he's probably the most motivating person to program like a training run for you too.
It is, right? So he was like, "You're gonna do this, like just do it, and here's the plan, and just like it doesn't matter, just hit the speeds." And like when TJ tells you to do something, you just go out and do it. So and then in 2023, I ran Boston Marathon with my qualifying time and got my 6 star for the World Marathon Majors. And that, cloud nine for sure.
Oh, I can imagine.
A long, long time coming.
So how many times? So you said you missed it by 40 seconds and then like a minute. Like,
yeah.
How many years did you like set out just to qualify for Boston?
I would say I always wanted to do it, thinking that I never could. And so there was like always a mind block. When I really buckled down and tried to qualify, there was probably like really 3 good attempts that were missed. Before I was like, oh, 5 minutes away, maybe next year I'll get faster. And I didn't really like have a game plan in place for what that would look like. So really to like get there, I would say there were 3 true attempts that I missed, and then the actual qualifying race.
So, okay. What race did you qualify for Boston at?
It was called Mount Charleston. It's outside of Las Vegas.
Okay.
And it's a Revel race.
So I want to know about, so did you know right away that you qualified for Boston? Like, I guess I just want to know, maybe run me through what your emotions were when you qualified for Boston. Like that had to feel great, right?
Yes. That race is a net downhill race. And I know that's controversial for some people when they're looking at Boston qualifying races and things like that. I say use whatever you can to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's legal, use the shoes, use the downhill courses, use all the things that you can. If it's legal, go for it. And so I did. I used the downhill course and I qualified, and I knew I was going to qualify. I did have a really bad last few miles of that race. I ended up getting a blister on the bottom of my foot.
Ooh.
That took over like 2/3 of my foot.
Right.
And so I was like hobbling. I could have like beat my qualifying time by like over 6 minutes. And the way that it worked, wow. I lost a little bit of time at the end there. Still had a big enough buffer and all the things that you need to get into Boston. But that blister and everything. But when I crossed the finish line, I knew I had qualified. Now the question would be, did I get a big enough time buffer to actually get into the race. And I had to wait from April until September when they had you register, and then did all the math and all of the whatever, and then said if there was a buffer needed or not, and if people made it in or not. So
that's awesome. You must have been like just elated when you got that. Like I'm assuming you're probably watching it, or that's so cool. That's rad.
Yeah.
So run us through. I mean, you said, I mean, you qualified for Boston Marathon. You ran the Boston Marathon. That's a sentence I could probably only ever dream of doing. Just to clarify, I'm terrified of running the marathon distance. That's why I skipped right over it. So, I'm gonna, like I said, I might have to actually learn to like run to do a road marathon. So I'm terrified of that. So the idea of like a BQ is something that's far removed from, what I'm probably ever going to be capable, unless I live and age into a qualifying time someday. Maybe that'll be my goal, right? I'll just hopefully get old enough to get into Boston. So tell me
that can happen.
Tell me about the day. Yeah, right. So tell me about like running the Boston Marathon. It's got to be like the coolest experience that you've the running experience you've ever experienced. Yeah.
It really is. And I would say that I'm super thankful that I have a lot of amazing running experiences all around the world. And, in the marathon and in ultra distances. But the Boston Marathon is definitely, I mean, it's not, the unicorn is not the symbol just, out of happenstance. It's definitely a unicorn. It's definitely like marathoners Super Bowl. It is definitely something that people really strive for and have on their bucket list. And maybe not everybody has it on their bucket list. It was definitely on mine. So it was something I definitely wanted to do. And I also think that they make it very accessible for anybody through their charity route too. And that can be controversial. People are like, oh, you should, qualify if you're going to run. But I think if you can get in and there's a way to raise the money, I think you deserve to be there as well. So that's 100%, my stand.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That's so cool. So maybe tell me how you felt crossing the finish line at Boston. That has been, I'm just like super stoked about this.
Yes. I still dream about it and live through it all the time because it was an amazing moment. So Joan Benoit Samuelson was there handing out the 6-star medals that day. So I got my 6-star medal from her.
Cool.
And that was just a really great moment knowing, what she did and all of the women marathoners before us had done to pave the way for me to just be there. And so that was just like, it hits you in the heart and you're like, wow, this woman who made history is standing next to me and we have a picture together. And that just, cool. Means the world, just from how far it's been just in my lifetime. I couldn't run a marathon when I was 2 years old when she was running the marathon, but, just within my lifetime to have women bring this sport to the rest of us. It's really cool because now there's people like me and, Allie and the rest of our friends that we know, and all the other women in the world that are out here doing great things for this sport and for the community. And I'm just really proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That had to be so cool to like be that close to someone who just like absolutely shattered like the glass ceiling in running in like the running world. So that has to be like an amazing experience to get to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely was. Yeah.
So tell me how all this turns into trail running, because you ran Jackson. I realized that today. Yeah, we have definitely crossed paths on the trail before. And
I know we definitely have.
So
I've seen
so
you
cool.
around. it's fun to finally catch up. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and then now we're building this whole like, you know, mutual friend network. You know, I think you're interviewing TJ in a couple of weeks, and you
Yeah.
had Allie on. So like this whole Central Indiana running community, I'm just like obsessed with it. I'm so excited about like all the friends that I continue to meet, like you, and then all the people I've just known for all these years. It's so I was in the middle of running marathons early on, and I think I learned what it meant to run an ultra marathon was anything, you know, longer than 26.2. So I'm like, what would that mean like as an official race? So I'm like, you know, Googling, and I find that a thing called a 50K exists. And I'm like, oh, that's like not that much further. I think I could actually do that too. So it was 2011, I think. I ran my first 50K, and it was called the Huff. Have you
Oh
heard of
yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that used to be in northern Indiana, where it's
Up in
much
Albion.
flatter than Jackson County. And so,
Everything's
yeah.
yeah.
One December, I had just run Chicago and Monumental, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'm trained up in 4 weeks. I could run this 50K." So I drove myself up to Albion, Indiana, to Channel Lake State Park, and
Such a
I
cool part too.
got in this corral to start a 50K trail race. I'd never run on trails before. I was wearing my road shoes, perfectly happy with it, wearing all of my, you know, road gear, had no pack, had nothing. I was just like, it can't be that bad, right? It's just a few more miles. But it was super fun. And like, honestly, more laid back. And I really, this is might sound bad for someone in either category, but I identify as a road runner, and I also identify as a trail and ultra runner. So being in both spaces, I feel like I can be critical of both sides. So running roads, you can be like really uptight about it, right? You can like be, you know, it, fascinated with your watch and the time and all the things that have to do with, you know, the logistics and the time, the clock, and all the things. Or, you know, you can go run trails and run an ultra and be a little more laid back and kind of more chill about it. And I liked both aspects of those mindsets. Sometimes I'm in the road mindset, and I'm like, I'm super stoked to like go out there, nail my paces, let's get this going. I'm excited for my road marathon, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I just need that like get away from the intensity and do like laid back, like it's a party at the aid stations. Let's eat a grilled cheese for 5 minutes. That's okay. And I just sometimes in my training and in my life, I need one or the other. And I figured out that that balance works really well for me to stay motivated and to stay, you know, just excited about running in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I have yet to see a pierogi at a road race. So, yeah, absolutely. I think I align with that too because I mean I like to do some like time stuff in like backyards. So I like to kind of be like you said. I kind of like to have like a foot on each terrain. I guess it's kind of a cool pun, I guess. Um, so, but yeah, it's like sometimes I like to buckle down and try and run, you know, fast, like a 5K or a 10K. But there's just something cool about like stepping on a trail and like kind of tuning out, right? Like, yeah, just you're just kind of one with nature. And like, I mean, I've ran entire trail races without even looking at my watch. Like, I just quit paying attention because I'm just like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know how it is. Like, you're just kind of in tune with everything else, but and that's what I love about, you know, there's good sides to both road and trail. Like I love both terrains, and it's funny because I've been talking to a lot more road runners lately, so I've been kind of getting like pulled back into that world too, because it just turns out that we're all really, really rad people, and we just sometimes choose different terrain. So, but yeah, I love that. Oh yeah, and I wanted to clarify for anybody that's listening, the reason we laughed hysterically about flatter than Jackson County, and maybe Christy, I'll let you tell people what that course is like, but it's gnarly. So how did it treat you? Was that last year you ran it, or was that, no, you
Yeah, it
ran
was
it this year?
just this past December.
Cool, yeah.
So 2024. Yeah, it was my first time down there. So mentioning that I had done the Huff like many years ago, I had circled back and I did the Huff again, like in 2021, maybe. It's a chill, flat-ish, trail race, 50K in December. And I was kind of like needing that. I had just come off of 2 road marathons in the fall. We ran Sydney Marathon in Australia, which now is the 7th world major. So I have that
cool.
done as well. And then I ran New York City for the 3rd time in November. And I was just kind of like, okay, I'm a little burnt out on the roads. I'm kind of just like ready. I need to mix it up here. So I was like looking, and the Huff, it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. It hasn't been running for 2 or 3 years. It was like one of the longest trail runs in Indiana too. I really don't know what happened, and that's unfortunate. But I did stumble upon Jackson County, and I knew people that had done that before. I knew a few people that were headed down that way. So I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, if it takes me 5 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, I'll just go and figure it out. It turned out to be the 8-hour, fully 8-hour 50K,
Yeah.
Which, to put in perspective, my trail 50K PR is like 5:20. So the full mow, that is not the trail 50K I'm talking about, an actual trail in the woods, like 5:20. So, to get down there and realize I'm definitely in for at least an 8-hour adventure. And the thing about that, it's the loop, right? So like 10 miles each time. And so I came back after the first loop, and it was the first time in my life where I was like, would it be worth it to continue? Is this a DNF day? I'm not sure. Well, that's just not in my DNA. The thought crossed my mind, but like to just even go there, like that's not who I am. So I just kept on going. And by the time you finish the second loop and you just had one more, I'm like, well, there's no way I'm dropping out now, even though
just send
the
it,
next time what you're getting yourself into for the third, and so yeah, it was a hike. It was mostly a hike. Definitely those last, definitely the last 6 miles for sure. But you were there.
Yeah, I remember my first year, I did the same thing. I did that first loop. I was like, am I going to be able to do this anymore? Like you have big plans when you show up to Jackson. After that first loop, you're like, well, that's all gone. Like that course has different plans than you do.
For sure. But, I just can't even believe, some of the same people as me that are down there just crushing it. And I'm just always in awe and like super inspired. And I passed Ashley Haynes at one point, and she was like in it for the long haul. And I'm like, oh, girl. And I was like, this killing me. And she was all like good to go. And I'm like, man, I need to draw some energy from her. And like the rest of everybody was just like in amazing spirits. And more grilled cheese at aid stations. That's my campaign slogan.
I stand behind that campaign. Yeah. I saw Ashley, and I think she was maybe on her final loop. I was like maybe halfway done, just kind of like a butterfly, just floating up the trail, and it's like, wow. And like it did get me fired up, but there was some like heavy hit, like Shay finished it. Like
Shay was amazing. She passed me twice. let's just talk about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was just behind her when she crossed the finish line, and I don't know if she knew she had gotten into Western States yet, but it was like so cool hearing everyone
Yes.
that finish line was just a totally cool. Like it was just really cool seeing her cross the finish line. But yeah, that's rad. So anybody that wants to sign up for Jackson County, who you into it, but it will change very quickly. But so all right. So you trail running. So there's something else that I guess we need to talk about. You're a run coach too. So
Yeah.
how do all these pieces fit in together where you decided, hey, I should coach too? So maybe run us through like kind of your journey with there, like what made you choose to go down that path?
Yeah. So a little over a year ago, I left my 20-year career in an industry that I have a lot of love for. I was the operations manager for a giant hair salon here in Carmel, Indiana. We had 50 employees. I'd been there forever since there were 8 employees. I helped grow that business, always behind the scenes. I'm not a hairstylist or anything like that, just the business operations standpoint and human resources marketing, all of that. And it just became time for me to move on. And I'm very fortunate that my husband supported me when I said, I want to do something in this running world. I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want to help them discover the joy and the love that I have found. But also, when I started, there weren't all the resources that there are now. Like there was maybe Hal Higdon, if you know how to find that on the internet, and
Yeah.
maybe Runner's World, but you had to know what to look for and like needed to. So, back in the day, it was like me running in cotton t-shirts, trying to figure out like really what to do, how to train. And I'm like, now that I have all this experience, and plus there's more resources out there to get trained properly to be a coach. And with my passion level and just motivation and really desire to see other people succeed, which is part of what I brought from my previous career. I was very much a coach in the hairdressers world, helping them become better business and individuals too. So I'm bringing all of that together, and it just made a lot of sense to get my coaching certificate. That it's kind of a big boom right now for the number of coaches that are coming into the market place. And I've been looking for ways to differentiate myself a little bit. So I did add an endurance sports nutrition certification to my toolbox as well. So I can kind of come at coaching more holistically. I'm wanting people to want to develop that relationship with running that can, last their lifetime if they want it to. And the way you would
Yeah.
need to do that is approach it from the nutrition standpoint and just understanding how all of that works together, plus the training. And plus, I balanced from my own, personal experience running and training for all of these races with my full-time career and kids at home and that kind of thing. So I think bringing all of that together, maybe I have some advice for people that would be looking for that. And very much communication is like the top tier of my values for when it comes to my coach athlete relationship. And so I'm talking with my clients all the time, how they're doing, what are our goals, where are we going, how are we feeling, how's your nutrient, are you hydrating? PSA, everyone should hydrate all the time. But
Yeah.
like it's funny that we all like kind of forget some of these basics, and to have somebody in your corner that can be your cheerleader and help you navigate, how you go from a 5K to a marathon or couch to a half marathon, like kind of, give you the game plan. Um, I know how valuable that would have been for me. And so I'm hoping to bring that to the table to some other people that it might benefit, for them moving forward.
Yeah, I love that you have that nutrition that kind of component to it too. Because I mean, I've been coached before, and that wasn't even really a conversation that ever came up. So I think it's kind of cool and unique that you've kind of got that it's like a different aspect to coaching. It seemed to me it seemed more like well rounded. Because I mean,
Mm.
you can run all you want, but if you're not like fueling and eating right, then I mean, what are you really doing with? I mean, I've had to learn that the hard way. My first year of running, um, I never fueled. I was just trying to be in like a caloric deficit all the time, and it was at my detriment. So learning about nutrition has been like huge. That's the only reason why I've been able to run, the distances I have is because I started really focusing on like the fueling and hydration and all that stuff. So, and that's been pretty eye opening. So I think it's kind of cool that you have like the added element to your coaching. I think that's really unique. It's not something you see a lot of coaches do. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I typically only take up to about 10 athletes at a time, just because that one-on-one personable experience is really important to what I want to give to these athletes. So it's big for me, and I'm a cheerleader for everybody, whether they're my client or not. I'm going to go out to a race. I may not even know anybody running, but I'm going to be out there. And that's the same way with my athletes. I'm going to be your number one cheerleader and help you get to that finish line.
And I want to make a special note that you do have an article live on Run Try Bike now. So that's kind of cool about run coaching. So that's really neat.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to ask a lot of some questions about. So you write too, like you do a lot of stuff. So, so you and your article is just now live. So that's kind of cool. I try to do my best to keep up with running for Run Try. The podcast thing is pretty all consuming sometimes. So you've written like you just celebrated the release of your second book, right?
Yeah.
So
I
how does
have
this? Yeah. So
two
tell
children's books.
me about that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So
This is another huge, awesome journey that's just an extension of everything that I've already been doing. I mentioned like wanting to encourage people through my coaching and being able to help introduce people to the love of running, and like the fact that you can have this relationship with this sport, for your life if you want to. These books are aimed at, the kids, and hopefully helping kids learn. Yes, they're running centered, but I think the lessons in both of my books kind of like go a little bit broader. My first one is called Can a Frog Jog? And it uses the alphabet and with like these clever rhymes going through the animal kingdom, and you're kind of helping the narrator look for their perfect jogging partner. For me, that was like a lesson that came from running, like running by myself a lot, but realizing no matter what your interest is, you can look around, and it might take, a little bit of time before you find that community that you really belong to. And so this narrator is looking through, the animal kingdom, and finally settles on, someone that they could, have as their jogging partner. And it's looking for the friendships and looking for that community where you do fit in, no matter what your interest is. Which in this particular case is running, of course, because that's what I can relate to. And then this Maya runs a marathon. It sounds, we know what Maya's going to do, of course, but going through the ups and downs of training, and, learning to have belief in yourself for trying something new that you've never done before. And also looking to that same community, like your friends and your family, to help support you when you're not feeling like you can pull through. So that's, whether it's running or any other area of life, I feel like that's a lesson that kids could definitely learn from. And, maybe Maya even can inspire some adults to try
That's what
something
I'm
they've
saying.
never tried before.
It could
Like
inspire me.
you could run a road marathon.
Certainly. Yeah, I love that because I think that's kind of cool. Have you always been a writer, or like what? Like, I guess I want to know
I don't
what made you
know.
decide to do that. Just one day you're just like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
write some books. I think
My,
that's kind of cool.
my mom would tell you that I've always been a writer. She has uh, like these notebooks from when I was a kid still saved, that I would write poems and like write different things. I don't know that it was always something that I was like, I'm definitely going to do this one day. But the frog book, I started writing little animal rhymes back in like 2018. I had the idea. So I had a note in my phone, and I would just like, I remember even waking up a couple times in the night and I'd be like, oh, a zebra, and like, kind of like write something about it real fast. And just like, it was something that was always in the back of my head. And so once I got the frog book going, it just kind of became this waterfall. And I'm like, well, I have this other idea because I really need a book about someone running the marathon. So then that kind of like went really fast. So the two books have come out pretty quickly, even though the frog book took a very long time to get into the process. And for me, honestly, to get into a space in my head where I could be like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there and try this like new thing that I've never done before, which honestly is super nerve wracking. Right. So
Oh, I can imagine.
you worry about, acceptance and like if people are going to think it's good, and that's with anything in life. So I was like, well, I need to just, do what I'm trying to teach others, and especially through the Maya book, to just go out there and do it anyways. And, the friends and the family and your network and your community will support you. And, you have to start somewhere. So maybe they're not the best books and they'll never be New York best sellers, but they're something that resonated with me and that I felt like was lacking in the children's book world. And I don't know a lot about that, but I know there was a couple of times I was going to a baby shower and they would be like, bring a book instead of a card and, sign your name in the book. And being a runner, and like a lot of times I'd be going to these runners baby showers and I'm like, there are no kids books about running. Like, I'm just going to change this. So that's what I did.
I love what you said. It's kind of it like publishing a book and like running kind of have like a common theme. Is just like put it out there, just like go for it. I think that's kind of cool. And like
Yeah.
that inspires me a little bit too, because I think I mentioned in one of your comments like I really want to like I've been like blogging and like writing for Run Tribe. Like I'd really like to publish like a coffee table book, but I think my one like roadblock there is just like fear. It's like, what if I put this thing out there and it's like terrible? So I think that's kind of cool. So that definitely like inspires me to maybe try and take a swing at that someday. So I think that's just so cool. So do you do the same thing? Are you ever running and you get like an idea and like, is your phone like full of like cell phone, like iPad or Apple Notes or whatever? Because I do that a lot when I'm running. But
Yes. Yeah, I do. I'll get ideas. I mean, I ran 10 miles this morning. So this morning's run was more consumed with like, our conversation today. And like, hopefully I was going to sound interesting and I wanted people to, want to listen and all of that. So I was thinking of things that we could talk about. But, every day the runs can be different. You don't need to ask me what my favorite song is to run to. I know that's always one of your questions.
I had a way of framing it up. I had a way of framing the question up around because I heard that about you on Allie's podcast. But go ahead.
Because
Sorry.
I am not I don't wear headphones. I don't listen to anything. And so honestly, I'm surprised after all of these years, like why haven't I solved like world peace and, hunger, like all of the things, all of the problems. You'd think I'd have enough time to like figure out how to solve some other bigger issues than just like what to write about in a little children's book. But yeah, I'm a no headphones girl.
That's what I heard. I was like, well, maybe I can still ask, like, what would you listen to? So what would you listen to if you wore headphones while you're running?
That's a good way to ask it. And I don't have a lot of answers for that. I can say that anytime I'm in a race where they have like the bands and the music and the DJs and all the things, like the Indianapolis 500 Festival Mini Marathon, there's like a band or a DJ like every mile. Any song that's hyping people up at that time, it could be YMCA, and I'm going to be all about it because any
Cool.
music, at the time is going to be new for me because I typically don't run with my headphones. So there are some songs that certainly I'm sure like are always like hype songs. I'm just bad at listing exactly songs and music and artists and whatever. But anytime that I hear something out there, in a race, that's a treat for me because I keep it out of my ears normally. So it's going to be all the regular hype songs, I'm sure, because
I'm gonna go with YMCA because so mission accomplished. I got someone who doesn't listen to music running to at least name the song. So this is a victory for the podcast today. So I heard that on Allie's like, well, I still have to ask the question. So I was like really
so
trying to reach for a way
probably
to
no
frame
one
that.
else has said YMCA.
Nobody. So it's going on the list, and yes, you have a song on the list.
Okay. Fair enough.
Oh yeah, and shout out to Allie. Yeah, Allie gave you a shout out and said that Christy's an amazing person. So, 6-star finisher, author, coach, ultra marathoner, you are incredible. Awesome. Yeah, Allie, you're incredible too. So, it was cool being on Allie's podcast. I really enjoyed that. It's been cool getting to know everybody locally, even though it might be virtually sometimes. It's just like one of the coolest communities. But so Christy, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for your song submission. But I wanted to ask you though, to close out the podcast, I would like maybe what if you had to like leave with some like closing advice or or like some good closing advice, like what would that be to like leave with the listeners of this podcast?
That's a good question, and that's a lot of pressure there. I would say the way that I've been able to mature as a runner is to know that not every race needs to end with a PR. And to do that, you have to run happy. You have to be excited for the community and the people around you and cheer for those that are reaching their goals, even if yours falls short or is not what you expected. And, stick with it. Consistency brings everything. You will end up there, whether it's as quick as you want it to be or not. If you're consistent with what you're pursuing, then you're going to reap the benefits of that. And perseverance, will help pull you through that, even when times get hard. And I think that's just how, for me, running has become like this lifelong love and passion and relationship that I know will continue. And I'm just, if you lose your spark, find ways to give back to the community, to the sport, and I promise you'll regain that spark. So that's all.
Excellent. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And anybody listening, give Christy a follow on Instagram. It's she'll get you fired up. Like you said, you're a cheerleader for everybody. I think it's really cool what you're putting out there. We're gonna have to figure out how to catch some miles soon. I think
Absolutely.
we might be at the same event next Saturday. I haven't signed up yet, but I'm going to commit to the Holiday Park Trail Run. So
I won't be there. I'm actually running
okay.
my
Oh, dang.
43rd marathon next weekend.
Okay, cool. Well, you're going to crush it. Well, I'll be on the trail and we'll be cheering for you. Everybody in the community will be cheering for you while you're running your 43rd marathon. That is amazing. So thank you so much, Christy, for coming on. It's been awesome having you on and getting to know you. I look forward to following along your journey and seeing you crushed a 43rd marathon. That's incredible to me. But so thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everybody for listening. And I cannot wait to go beyond the finish line with everybody next time.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.